So let's talk about writer's block. What is writer's block? Well, the definition is it's this inability to produce any written work. It can affect all kinds of writers, all kinds of people, and it will range from very brief periods to much, much longer periods. It's insurmountable. It's not insurmountable, and it can be overcome. So it was first described in 1947 by someone called Edmund Burglar. So he wrote 25 books, 273 scholarly articles, and he had what he described as dry moments. So for about 20 years, Burglar studied writers who suffered from what he called neurotic inhibitions of productivity. They can't write. And he wanted to know why they were unable to create and what, if anything, could be done about it. And he came to the conclusion, if you solve the psychological problem, then you will remove the blockage. So that's fantastic. But how do we do that? So we'll have a look at all of the different ways that we can overcome writer's block. But it was extensively researched in the 70s and 80s. It affected all kinds of people. F. Scott Fitzgerald, Charles M. Schulz. I mean, he produced so many Peanuts cartoons. How could he possibly have a creative block? And it's been explored in psychology, neuroscience, and in creative study. So, a lot of people have looked at it. Ralph Ellison, he struggled for 40 years with a second novel. Could you imagine that? Harper Lee, 55-year gap between novels. Tolstoy, Virginia Woolf, they also experienced periods of block. So you're in, if you're suffering, you're in jolly good company. So, all of this demonstrates there is a varying degree of duration and severity. So we can get over this. So, what do we mean by a psychological block? Well, you might have anxiety, stress, self-criticism, loss of interest in what you're doing, and pride in your work, self-doubt, procrastination, perfectionism, helplessness. You might not like being alone. So some people like to write in cafes and, they can't write. It can't be a solitary thing. You might have lost your motivation. Perhaps you can't visualize the end product. You don't feel good enough. Comparisonitis. You might think there's too many rules in writing and you need someone to validate you. So you're externally motivated. The list could go on and on and on. But, like I say, there are so many reasons. And do you know what? It doesn't matter what the reason is. The point is we can overcome it. So Graham Greene said, he had this thing called dream journaling where you could just write about anything. You could just dream something up, because he said no one but you sees your dreams. No one can sue you for libel for writing them down. No one can fact check you or object to a fanciful turn of events. Of course, he was a novelist, and I'm sure that many of you reading this, everything that you do is a bit more factual. But if you take that concept of dreaming stuff up, kind of visualizing things, then hopefully that will get you started. Free writing, just keep writing, about anything. Just pick a subject. One of the things that I often suggest people do in journaling is when they get up in the morning is write a single word, leave it all day. And then when you come back at night, do what I call write the mundane. I got up this morning, I had my breakfast, took the dog, write any old rubbish. And then the mundane will turn into magical. Free writing. Change your writing environment. I say this to people who work with me all the time. If you can't write where you're sitting, go and make it, a sacred, safe place that you want to write in. Things like mind mapping. So you can do all of those kind of creative things to kind of get yourself moving. Other common perspectives are fear of writing badly or being judged. Do you know what? We all write. We call it a load of rubbish, the first draft. It's not the greatest piece of work. But the thing is, you've written something and then you can edit it. You might feel overwhelmed by the project. Well, just do it in chunks. Here's your project. Just do this little baby bit here. You might have a massive loss of confidence. That happens quite a lot. Or you just might lose interest. I often write thousands and thousands of words in something, lose interest, only to find myself going back, sometime later and going, oh, I've forgotten I'd written this, and then being able to reuse it. So, nothing is wasted. And you might have a conflict with other writing projects, so something else might take priority. What's interesting about this is I like to have lots of writing projects on the go. So I will start various things because I like to get things started. I like to get them mapped out. And then I'll come back to whatever the priority is, write it until I'm kind of brain dead, and then go to something else. Because for me, switching between different writing projects gives me a chance to reflect and as bizarrely as it sounds, to feel refreshed when I go back to the thing that is the priority. Things that people have said to me, they feel bored with what they're doing. They get lost in what they're doing. So, in those cases, come back to the outline. We've talked about that fear of writing badly, and that just stops people. Overwhelm, loss of confidence. There's perhaps other things going on. So people have said, they have resented their writing time because there's other things that they felt that they could be doing. It's really bizarre. Someone once said to me, as a busy writer, writer's block is a luxury and deadlines are the best motivator. Make of that what you will. So if you've got a deadline, that doesn't work for everybody. People don't have the confidence to start. There's all kinds of reasons, and I invite you to listen to your inner dialogue. So things that you can do: visualization. That's even if you don't think you're visual, you can feel, sense, know. So imagine that success. See yourself on the stage winning an award. See yourself sitting in front of someone who says, I've just read your book, it's amazing. So visualization is super, super helpful. Reframe your beliefs. Okay, so you may need someone to help you turn your can'ts into cans. Meditation, just so that you can find that inner peace, reduce that stress, and find a way to increase your focus. I've got an app called Brain FM, and that helps me so it does several different things. I can use it to meditate, but I can also help it to support me in the creative process. So the other thing you can do is go and read. Often when we take time out, we'll find inspiration in other people's work. Do something else. Go for a walk, journal, colour in a mandala. I think often we might find ourselves being pulled by work and life and finding no space. So we need to find some kind of balance. The other thing with thinking of things like meditation and going for a walk and stuff like that, we need to think about the impact of stress on our cognitive function, because if we're stressed, we are typically not going to be able to write. So think about stress reduction techniques. There's also what is quite interesting is you can get a dopamine hit from creativity and motivation. So, are you kind of driven by that sense of achievement? There's things like lack of sleep. If you don't sleep, you certainly don't feel like writing. So have a think about some of those mindfulness practices that bring you into a state of inner calm so that you can carry on. So focus on things that you can do, actions that you can do. Depending on what you're writing, if you're writing self-help, focus on the actionable advice that you can give in any personal anecdotes, and just write those little bits, and then you can join everything together. If you're doing something like a transformational journal, you could map out the steps and walk them and talk on your phone. So if you're doing, say, a memoir, you could do a timeline restructure. If you're blogging and you're stuck, go and look at current events and see how you can map those to your subject so that you can re-engage your readers. You could look at different kinds of writing software. I tend to use Microsoft Word, but I have the navigation pane on, so I can see the outline over here, and that kind of lets me see the flow, but also I can see where the gaps are, I can jump around and stuff like that. What about AI? I've just written an AI guide for one of my programs that I'm running. So I'm not suggesting it writes for you, but you could use it to help you brainstorm and come up with some ideas. Get rid of your digital distractions and have a digital detox, and turn the Wi-Fi off. Chuck your phone somewhere, forget where you put it. But all of those things are going to help you to clear your mind so that you can get back on track. I always talk about regular writing. When I'm writing a book, I will typically, it depends on the time of year, because I like to take the dogs as soon as the light comes up, but let's call it first thing. So first thing, sit and write for an hour. Have a dedicated writing space. So also think about your writing environment, because I hate mess and muck and stuff around me. So I want a place to write that feels right for me. So whether that is sat on the sofa downstairs with a computer on my lap, or sat at my desk as I am now, I have specific places that I particularly like to write. Set goals, do things in chunks, make everything achievable, celebrate everything that you do, no matter how tiny. So things that I do when I feel like, I just can't do this anymore, I might go for a walk. I might switch what I'm doing and journal. I might meditate. I might colour in a mandala. I might go and say, Alexa, play whatever it is, and go and have a dance in the kitchen. Allied with walking, I might go and I might walk and reflect, or I might just go and sit on the terrace and stare at the hills. I'll also look at what is going on in my life. I think about, the past, how that is perhaps impacting my present moment. But I also ask myself the question, if I'm not writing, how does that serve me or my readers? So that's just a brief look at as a kind of introduction to writer's block. So when should you find help? If you find yourself persistently stuck, then think about engaging some kind of a coach, maybe finding a friend who can also write alongside of you. Consider what else might be going on. So, are you excessively stressed? So is there something deeper that's going on? And that really is often what is happening. There is something else going on. Like I said, you can reach out to all kinds of people. It doesn't have to be a writing coach. It could be a massage therapist, just to kind of, unlock your muscles. Think about things like writing groups, workshops, perhaps joining different kinds of programs. So if you absolutely want to write and you are stuck, ask for help. And I know that's terribly hard sometimes, and a lot of us can't ask for help, but please do go and ask for help. So key takeaways: it's common, it's varied, there's loads and loads of different strategies depending on what's going on. You need a level of self-awareness. Self-care is crucial. And, with that persistence, whatever techniques you've used, you will conquer writer's block. So that is a really, really brief introduction to looking at, what is writer's block. So I will cover some different ways of getting out of it.